One. I was in Paris on Christmas Eve, and I was at a nightclub, absolutely blackout drunk, and I jumped into a taxi with one of the girls from the tour. She came up to me in the morning, telling me that she was impressed that I spoke French so fluently. After I told her that I didn't know how to speak French, she told me that I had a 30-plus minute conversation in fluent French with the taxi driver. It blew me away, but she was so adamant that it actually happened. Two. About a year ago, my girlfriend and I went to eat dinner at Chipotle's. It's in a smallish shopping area with a burger joint and a payway neighboring the Chipotle, one of those kind of upper-classy type shopping areas. We pulled into the parking lot in front of the establishments at about 5 p.m. on a Friday evening to find an empty parking lot. There were no tables outside, there were no cars in the parking spots, not a person in sight, and even the lights inside the buildings were all off. Completely confused, I took the car in sort of a loop around the building in order to leave. The only thing of interest was a single fire truck parked along the side of the building, headlights on, but no emergency lights, and no one was in the truck. It struck us as a little odd. Maybe there was a fire in the building? As we pull out the back side of the building and then finish looping around, we drive past the front facade of the building. Except this time every parking spot is full. Tables are outside with patrons at them, food half eaten. There's people walking around, and the lights inside the buildings are all on, but the fire truck was gone. Mind you, it took less than 30 seconds to make a circle around the building. Easily one of the strangest things I've ever experienced. Three. My friend and I were at a Chinese restaurant, and we ordered a General Tso chicken dinner and a shrimp lo mein dish. When we both sat down, we took out both boxes and set them on the table about 2 feet apart. He opens the first box, and we see a shrimp lo mein dish. It has all the things in there: noodles, shrimp, fried rice. He closes the box and opens the other box. Inside that box is a shrimp lo mein dish. Shrimp, noodles, fried rice. Oh, I think, they must have mixed the order. I was just about to say this when my friend says out loud, "Looks like they made a mistake and gave us 2," as he opens the first box again. Inside of it is a General Tso chicken dinner order. General Tso chicken, white rice, and an egg roll. He froze and looked at me. I looked back at him, and we sat in silence. It took us 5 or so minutes to collect ourselves. We have no idea what happened. Four. I was in my living room, looking out the window at the street, and I see a neighbor from a few doors down going down the street on her scooter. She's morbidly obese. My living room has 2 sets of windows separated by a bit of a wall, so if someone walks by, there's a slight gap when you see them. So I was sitting there. She scoots by the first window. There's a beat, and she never appears out the other side. I continue watching both of the windows to see if she comes out or turns around, and there's nothing. So I get up and I go to the window to see the entire street, and she is completely gone. There were no other places to go as she was on the sidewalk, and she couldn't scoot across the grass, and she couldn't go onto the street because she would tip over the curb. Her two directions were left up the street or right back where she came from. She disappeared, and she was going neither. I even went outside to see if there was somewhere else that I missed that she could have gone. There was nothing. She went past my window and was promptly deleted from existence. Five. When I was a child, like 7 or 8 years old, I remember leaving my house in the morning to head over to my friend Chris's house, who lived down the street, to see if he wanted to come out and play. So I walked the 2 blocks or whatever to his house, up to his front door, and I knocked. This strange woman I'd never seen before answered the door, and we both looked at each other like we didn't know each other. I asked her if Chris was home, and she looked at me like I was crazy and told me no one named Chris lived here, and proceeded to explain that the people that lived there moved out a couple of weeks ago. Chris was my best friend that I hung out with every day. I knew this house perfectly well. I looked at the number on the house. There was no mistake. I was in shock, and I just sort of said, "Okay," and I walked away. I started walking home in disbelief and totally confused at what just happened, and I was trying to understand. Then I see this bee flying by me, so I did what any 7 or 8-year-old would do, and I just sort of froze, like don't agitate the bee and I'll be fine kind of thing. This bee buzzed around me for a bit and landed on my pinky finger. It kind of hung out for a quick several seconds and flew off, and it left this faint sort of mole behind, almost like a freckle on my finger. It was weird, and I still have it there on my baby finger. It never was there from what I remember before. The whole interaction, from the weird woman to the bee, felt very strange to me, and I had this sudden voice in my head that said, "Go back to Chris's house, something isn't right here." So I turned around and made my way back to his house, and I knocked on the door again, and this time his mom answered the door, and everything was back to normal. Chris came out, and we went off on our merry way. It was really awkward for me that something was one way at one point in time, then the next second everything was back to my reality. I even asked him if he had someone over regarding the first visit, and he said no one else was there, just him and his mom and his younger sister. This memory has haunted me to this day, and I will probably continue until the day I die. I'm 32 years old now. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the show. If you have a story to share, send us an email, like us on Facebook, share, like, and subscribe.